Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, one and all. Thanks for joining us in the Voice of CIO episode 5. Today, I have a good friend and esteemed industry colleague, Wayne Sadin, C suite board of director IT advisor, who is going to join us and talk a bit about a very important theme called how to keep up as the world reopens. So, thanks, Wayne, for joining us today. Hope you're doing well in Texas.
I'm doing very well in Texas, Suresh, and thank you so much for having me. This is an important topic, and I'm really glad you're giving us the chance to talk about it.
Excellent. So, for viewers, Wayne, why don't you run down on a memory lane of your over 3 decades of experience? What's been your journey and what fascinates you today to talk about this topic and give us a little bit of uh, understanding about what is your role as a C suite board of director IT advisor? That seems to be a cliche. Want to know more about that.
Well, my goodness, I hope I'm not a cliche, but let me try to define my journey and how I got
Sure.
here. So I started out as an engineer, dropped out of school, became an engineer, went back, got a computer degree, got a business degree, got a second computer degree, all the while working.
Right.
Worked in financial services, worked my way up from the computer room into the CIO's chair.
Right.
I was actually probably one of the first CIOs in the United States in 1982.
Right.
We just coined the term. And I ran a lot of the back room of a bank, moved into a software company, then to another bank, and back and forth. And the trend always was these were companies that either IT was just a mess, and I was brought in to troubleshoot, or IT and the business at one point kind of agreed. And then the business got a new owner, a new strategy, a new CEO, a new private equity, a new globalization, a COVID, and IT was still humming around here.
Right.
And so I kept being brought in to do that and
Right.
bring IT in harmony with the rest of the company. And over a period of about 10 years, I fixed about 8 different IT shops. And at one point, we sold the company. I got a 2-year non-compete, non-solicit. And I said, why am I banging my head against this wall over and over again as an employee? I had the opportunity because of this buyout to
Right.
then do some startups. And from there, I was getting calls. I'm active on LinkedIn, active on Twitter. I write, I speak. And people who knew me over the years started calling me and saying, come help me with my IT situation.
Right.
And so my business card for a long time said, I fix broken IT departments. But quite honestly, Suresh, I realized a lot of CEOs couldn't tell a broken IT department from a functioning IT department because IT is pretty good at hiding that stuff from the CEO who's very busy.
Right.
So my current business card says, when you outgrow your IT strategy, call me. And that resonates with the the CEOs and the board members. And so what I do is I really try to help the executive management of the company use IT better. That could mean saving money, but in IT, but generally does not. It generally means helping focus the questions being asked in governance by the board, by the CEO, by the C-suite, and then running the demand management so we know what IT should be working on, aligning IT with the rest of the company, in some cases helping find the right C-suite in IT.
Right.
So I've done interim CIO, I've done mentoring of CIOs, I've done mentoring of boards and CEOs, I've helped with ERP planning, I've helped with strategy, and also with digital transformation and digital optimization, which we'll talk about a little later.
Excellent. So, in terms of uh, the primary objective of these episodes, Wayne, is to bring in real world practitioners talking about from their pearls of, from their wisdom of experience and to kind of get kick started. What do you think is the next normal? I mean, people sometimes hate to talk about the new norm and the next norm, but what it would look like once the world reopens after everybody getting vaccinated and everybody going on to get the ball rolling? What would you do?
Sure. Well, first of all, the reason I call it, and a lot of people call it the next normal,
Mhm.
is we recognize there is not going to be one new normal and that's it forever. We recognize that the rate of change is accelerated, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's digitization, whether it's competition, whether it's technology, all of those things are changing ever faster. So that's why it's the next, because there'll be one after that and one after that.
Sure.
And so you also say when everybody gets vaccinated, the world opens. Well, that's not happening. In India, in the US, in the UK, in some countries, Israel, they're doing tremendously well with vaccinating people and containing the spread and even stopping the flow and reducing it. In other countries, in Europe and South America, they're not doing as well. So one thing we know about the next normal is it will be lumpy. There'll be things that open faster. There'll be things that open and then close. And so we have to be ready for an environment where we're not quite sure where we work. And so we started with, we all knew we came to the office. We came to the office 5 days a week. You need to take a half day. That's okay. A few people worked from home, but that was very unusual. And then one day in the middle of March, we all went home.
Yep.
Now, I've been working from home for 10 years, so I don't care. But my clients care a lot. And some that we'd prepared a new infrastructure. We'd put in an SD-WAN, we'd put in a wireless strategy, we put in some work from home. I've been pushing companies to put in video cameras and decent mics for years. They adapted very well.
Right.
Other companies adapted a little more slowly, but we mostly figured out that if it could be done from home, we're doing it from home.
Sure.
And so now I find it very interesting. On the same day this week, Google announced a $9 billion investment in real estate. And Ford Motor Company said 30,000 people can work from home. Now, is that a reversal of what you'd expect, right? When you see so many Silicon Valley firms saying work from home forever,
right.
We're seeing that it's maybe you can work from home because our company culture can handle it,
right.
Or maybe our company culture says you really need to be somewhere with other people. So we'll call that a hybrid. Yeah. And if you've seen the writing that's being done, what if everybody wants to take Monday and Friday from home, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in the office? How will we find the space? Right. What are the rules going to be? Are the rules going to be 3 days a week? You're going to come in, or you come in whenever you need to? How do we hotel the desks? What do we do with corporate real estate? Right. What do we do with our network? What do we do with should I have a small office video conferencing system at home and any neighbors that happen to be also coworkers come to my house? I don't know. Right. So we're facing a very interesting time culturally. And there's a whole bunch of people saying, if you're not fully remote, you're doomed because you can hire from anywhere, you can arbitrage the labor cost. Yeah, maybe. But there are some things that maybe better be done in person. There are some things that can very well be done with everybody being wherever. And so I think that a notion that we're all coming to an office and we're hiring within a 30-mile radius, depending on commute, that's dead. We can't do that. We've got to allow for people of any job that can work remotely to be allowed to work remotely in that circumstance. Right. And so I don't think we can say everybody in this job must come to the office, everybody in this job must not come to the office. We're going to have to allow for flexibility. And that's the big thing. The other thing we're going to see is just like we're transforming the office, the supply chain has changed. Look, we've spent how many decades doing economic order quantity, just in time, Kanban, lean. The notion is, I don't have to warehouse it. It's coming on a truck at 8:07 tomorrow morning until the boat stopped coming, until the truck stopped coming. Now what happened? We discovered that material that was important came from this point of the world to that point of the world to that point of the world to this point of the world to make that screw. And all of a sudden, we couldn't get it because one link in the chain was broken. I call this the dumbbell supply chain that we run with. We have a whole bunch of manufacturers somewhere, South America, Asia, wherever they may be, a whole bunch of users, let's say in America, and then this skinny little pipe called ocean commerce to connect them. And the dumbbell has collapsed because we recognize we've got to have more safety stock. We've got to have more local inventory. We have, even put COVID aside, we had a freeze in Texas that froze the petrochemical industry. You know, plastic is in short supply because all the petrochemicals froze. We have hurricanes, we have winter storms. So all of a sudden, we're going to what I call the spiderweb strategy. We're going to do more onshore and nearshore, so we don't have to worry about as much ocean travel. We're going to build up our safety stocks. You know, economic order quantity has the cost of stock out. Well, we've taken the cost of stock out from this much to this much in many industries, and that changes the EOQ calculation. So we're going to have a much more complex local supply chain. probably more warehouses. Here's a quick example from Texas. In North Texas, they ran out of copper pipe when everything froze. In South Texas, they ran out of plastic pipe because they use different materials. So I said to my local hardware store, big chain, why don't you put a truck full of plastic pipe from North Texas and send it to South Texas? And the answer I got was our inventory systems only work warehouse to store. They don't work store to store. We have no way to do it. Right. Imagine if we could have moved the goods that was sitting in 200 miles away, right, but we couldn't move it because our logistics is not integrated. So we've got to be allowing for that. Our electricity has to flow in both directions with solar panels and local wind farms. Our goods and services have to flow in both directions. So if you're in the logistics business, the warehousing business, the supply chain business, manufacturing business, recognize your warehouse management, transportation management is getting a lot more complicated. Right. That's the next thing. And the last thing is the general point, the cycle times, what I call, and a lot of people call the OODA loop, the observe, orient, decide, act loop that involves decision-making has now compressed. If you see a pandemic spiking in Miami Beach, what does that mean to your business? If you're in the hospital business, it means one thing. If you're in the hotel business, it means something else. So how do you adjust to that? And that means whatever we do with data, with analytics, with Internet of Things has got to be better integrated, more data, more information to be able to make faster, better decisions.
How should digital transformation and digital optimization factor into a CEO's plan? I mean, with all this complexity of a VUCA world that we stay in, how do we still see that the CEO are setting up for a success with this transformation getting even more complex and optimization being the order of the day?
Well, let's start by defining the two terms, because digital transformation is a terrible term used to mean almost anything with a computer stuck on it. Right. So I want to define digital optimization first, because most people don't define it. It is doing what you do today better, faster, cheaper through the use of process redesign and technology. Right. That's like ERP systems. That's what's called RPA, where the computer is doing the swivel chair interface. That's anything from simple automation to quite complex automation, but it doesn't change the business you're in. Now, digital transformation is a vastly different thing. It is a CEO and board-led rethinking of your culture, of your products, of your markets, of your customer experience and your employee experience. It is not business that we do today. It's the business we have to do tomorrow to keep from being Amazoned or Ubered or Airbnb'd out of business. It's saying this market has been good to me, but I don't see it expanding. So maybe I'll sell this division and invest in that. Right. Or maybe I've got to invest a whole different level in employee training for automation so that I can be ready to serve a different customer. A lot of times what digital transformation can involve is adding an information component to an existing product. Right. If I make a thing and I sell the thing, what information does that thing produce? What information can the customer use that I could sell them the way to get it? Or what information can I get out of it and turn the information into a business? I had a client that sold a thing that measured stuff in the field for customers. They made this thing. And I said, I can help you make the thing better, but how about selling information about how customers stack up? They measure this thing and regulators look at them. And investigators look at them if there's an accident. Did you do the right thing in this area? What if you had a database of all the companies in the industry and you could say to a client, you are in the top quartile of the industry in controlling that variable because I have a database of everybody. Right. Never thought about that. We are an engineering firm. We make this thing. Well, the data can be worth more than the thing itself. So that's a way to do digital transformation without necessarily changing your underlying business. But it could mean everything from selling divisions, buying divisions, growing differently, globalization, deglobalization. Don't think that's something you say to the CIO, go digitally transform us, which is what too many companies do. And it's not digital window dressing. It's not, let's put up a new website. That's a digital transformation. Go tell Wall Street. It is a really fundamental thing. And as a CIO who can do digital optimizations all day by myself with the rest of the C-suite, the board has to be involved, the CEO has to be involved in making these shifts in the company's basic DNA.
Yeah.
So that's very important on the definition. And that's, if anybody wants to argue with that definition, I'd love to have the feedback, because this is what works for me.
Well, that's a great way to illustrate between digital transformation and digital optimization part of it. Now, you are a big proponent of saying that the CEO or the board of director gets the CIO they settle for, and that's a very, very important statement. And just elaborate a little bit about why do you say that, and what's been your experience of resonating with the same statement that is working most of the times.
Sure. Well, I say the CEO gets the CIO they settle for, because all too often you see a CIO that really is a VP of DP, the vice president for data processing. They run the budget, they keep the people under control and happy, they get the projects done, but where are they at the table? Where are they meeting with clients? Where are they with investors? Where are they with the board? Where are they saying to the C-suite, have you tried this? Have we used this? Oh, I can solve that problem for you. So you really need a partnership. Now, many CEOs have never seen a real CIO. They've seen the CIO they had in place when they ascended to the job or got the job. The CIO has been there 20 years, and bless their hearts, they're doing the job they're trained to do and the job they're told to do. So here, I'm not picking on the CIO. I'm suggesting that if digital matters to your company, and it should in the next few years if it hasn't before, you need a partner. You need a CIO that you can send to a client. I maintain that a CIO should be able to understand the financials like the CFO and explain them to an investor. Should be able to go do a customer sales call and listen to a customer complaint and hopefully do something about it, and maybe even close a sale. They ought to be able to talk to the media. They ought to be able to manage a business unit. And that is not in the skill set of many CIOs. And the CEOs let IT people get away with it. Oh, well, they're just the CIO. If your CFO didn't understand the business you were in, that person wouldn't be there anymore. If your CMO couldn't have an intelligent conversation with the CFO, one of them would be gone.
Right.
But we let IT people have a pass because, well, that's just IT people. And that's not okay. A pet peeve of mine is the CEO or board member that says, hey, I got a stupid question about IT. And I stop them and I say, there are no stupid questions from CEOs and board members. And if you get told it's a stupid question or answered like it's a stupid question, that person shouldn't be talking to you anymore. If I don't know about international tax, I don't say I have a stupid question about international tax or about some arcane point of law. But we all feel like we ought to know more tech than we do. And so that's the main thing. The other thing, of course, is IT is changing. We used to have what's called systems of record, the monthly payroll report, the weekly sales report. And now we have systems of engagement. The center of IT is not the mainframe in the building. It's this thing in my hand, in my customer's hand, in my employee's hand, in my supplier's hand. So we've moved from a monthly cycle or a weekly cycle or a nightly cycle to an every second in your face cycle. And then we're generating enormous amounts of data. And so systems of interaction become systems of insight. And we get that data that fuels the OODA loop I talked about at first. Right. Not every CIO is comfortable in that real world, real-time environment. So you need to make sure you have one, a CIO partner who can do that. And the last part of it is tone at the top. If your board of directors does not understand technology at all, I think you have a weakness. In the US, we have Sarbanes-Oxley, about 20 years old, when the regulators realized board members did not understand the financials. And Sarbanes-Oxley was put in place partly for that. Right. They mandated a board role called a QFE, a qualified financial expert, somebody who could understand the financials and run the audit committee. Right. Well, now we're 20 years later, and a lot of us believe it's time for a QTE, a qualified technology expert, somebody who is not a pure geek, somebody who is not a consultant, somebody who can sit on a board and function as a board member, and also bring that expertise of a CIO, maybe a CISO, maybe a CTO, to the board to influence the technical decisions. I like to say, ask the right questions and understand the answers.
I think it's important because the awareness, the level of getting this awareness is everybody's responsibility. You cannot say that, okay, just because they don't understand it, we can get along quickly or we can get our agenda sneaked in because they don't understand it. It defeats the whole purpose. So I think it has to be a holistic one. So the final advice, what would you have for CEOs and board of directors? And particularly with the new norm of, when the thing opens up, where do you think that they have to put their effort and energy into to make it a sustainable future moving forward?
Well, I think the first thing, as we said, the CEO's got to get the right CIO partner. The CEO should stop settling and go find the right person to be that high energy, high value IT partner. That's first. What you work on specifically is hard to say. The cloud, AI, Internet of Things, we could have a whole nother presentation on what technology might be opening up because it's changing dramatically. But it's about how the company can absorb whatever technology they need, whatever process they need. So the right partner is critical. Then the CEO and the board need to rethink the culture and make it more adaptive. In the past, the whole command control bureaucratic model worked very well. Everything moved up. Why did it move up? Because we had no way to get information. So we took in data from here and data from there and a little information. Now we can ask the thing in the field. If I make phones and I want to know how those phones are working, I ask the phone. I don't have to ask middle management. Right. So how do we build a management structure that is much more adaptive, where the CEO can see a dashboard, drill down, click, 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 and say, what's going on Project 27, and call somebody on Project 27. Right. You know how many people that shakes up when the CEO calls Project 27 and says, what happened to materials yesterday? Now, you have to resist the urge to spend your whole day doing that if you're the CEO, but it can change the culture to have an adaptive culture that moves faster and that's transparent. And the last thing is be ready to pivot quickly. Be ready to buy and sell companies. Be ready to invest and disinvest. Be ready to change technologies, change markets, change whatever. The world is going to move faster. What are they saying? 6% GDP growth in America? That's the fastest it's been in 40-something years. In India, in China, they're predicting faster. You can't run that fast without being ready to jettison stuff and pick up other stuff as you go. Think of it as a video game. And so if you're a CEO, if you're a board member, be thinking about how to be adaptive and nimble and ready to change as the world around you changes. And your IT is your eyes and your ears and your muscles. They collect the data, and more with robotics and AR and things like that, they can actuate, can affect things out in the field and close that loop from data to information to decision to action.
Excellent. Thanks. I think, Wayne, there was lots and lots of useful discussions, useful insights that I think our viewers would find it much more valuable in the short span of time. And thanks again for sharing your insights. I look forward to seeing you someday in person in Texas and having and dine together.
Well, I am fully vaccinated. I'll meet you wherever. I am no longer afraid to go out. And so for me, at least, the world is open.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Wayne. Nice talking to you.
Thank you.